Hello everyone, my name is Nathan Liu. This is my presentation on the Yancheng lobster. It is a protected geographical indication or PGI status. So let's get into it. So first of all, who am I? I am a senior at Eastridge High School and a PSEO student at the University of Minnesota, and I'm Chinese American, and I hope to study economics in the future as well. And I also really love to eat seafood, so that makes me really sort of relate to this product, and I think I put a lot of effort into this presentation. So without further ado, let's get started. So it is a PGI status product, so let's get into first what that is. So these is a protected geographical indication. It's determined by the European Commission, and basically it emphasizes the relationship between the geographical region and the name of the product. So in our case, the Yancheng lobster comes from the city of Yancheng in China. Furthermore, a particular quality or characteristic of the product is attributable to that geographical region, and at least one stage of the production process or preparation takes place there. And we'll get into that in the next couple of slides. So, about the Yancheng lobster. It is once again from China. It was registered in 2012, and importantly, it is a freshwater lobster that is produced in the Dafeng district of Yancheng City in China. So, particularly, you can find these lobsters in the Dolong River, the Yangtze River estuary, and the Yellow Sea. In these areas, when you find the lobsters, they generally have a springy, full meat, and unique nutritional contents, and a flavor that distinguishes it from other crayfish. So in the United States, we call lobsters that are in freshwater crayfish. And generally, the color of the Yancheng lobsters are red, and occasionally they have brown coloration, and sometimes it can be a bit spiky and rough. So I got this picture off of one of the websites that I found about the Yancheng lobster. So continued, furthermore, another things that make it unique is that it is much larger compared to other lobster species as well as other crayfish species. So crayfish, people could compare Yancheng lobster to crayfish. However, they are much larger than regular crayfish. And they're also much larger than a lot of other lobster species that you might find in the United States. Right, some of them can go over to 30 centimeters in length. Furthermore, the sweet and flavorful meat is first of all caused by the unique salt and freshwater combination in which they live. They generally live in between salt and freshwater, despite being called freshwater lobsters. And it's because they live in freshwater areas, but also areas where salt and freshwater converge. Furthermore, they're also paired with a unique salt and fennel sauce, which gives them even sweeter meat, and that's another thing that makes it unique. So going into the production process, you'll see even more why it's a PGI product. All right. So um, looking at the production process, the Yancheng lobsters are, once again, they're harvested near freshwater and saltwater converge. And one of these locations is the Dolong River. One of them is the Yangtze River estuary, where it combines with the Yellow Sea and the Yangtze River. Importantly, also, what makes them unique is that they're never sold live. So they are exclusively frozen and packed in a vacuum after they have been cooked in a special sauce. And this sauce is made from salt and fennel, with the salt being made in Yancheng, China. And it's made in the local area. So Yancheng literally stands for Salt City if you translate it to Chinese. And that's because the area has been making sea salt for literal thousands of years, right? Additionally, the production process of the sauce, as well as the combination with the lobster itself, is really, really strict. There's a lot of grading, sorting, washing, and freezing, which makes it very unique. All right. So, in terms of the location, once again, the Yancheng is on the coastline of China on the east side, with many rivers flowing into the Yellow Sea. And as you can see here, here's a picture of the Yangtze River estuary at the top right, and it's the largest estuary in China. There's 4 outlets that go into the sea, and most of these areas where you see not only fresh water and salt water, there's a lot of convergence between the land and the sea and these rivers, right? Above this river estuary, the Duolong River is also a branch of the Yangtze River, which leads into the Yellow Sea, where you'll find other areas where salt and fresh water also converge. So, like I was mentioning before, Yancheng is the salt city, and it's named after the salt harvest fields surrounding the city. And once again, the collection and production of the sea salt began as early as 119 BC. So it is very, very well known for its salt. And in this case, that salt goes directly into this product of the Yancheng lobster. All right. So the Economics of the Yancheng lobster are also pretty important to the region and pretty important for understanding its PGI status. So it plays a significant role in the local economy of Yancheng for the fishing and tourism industry, right? A lot of their money comes from exporting this Yancheng lobster as well as the production process that they carry out. Additionally, it's used in a lot of numerous local dishes for special occasions, and it's seen as this delicacy and luxury good. So people will constantly want to have it for its sort of quality and taste. And that even outside of the town and the city, people internationally will want it and they look for the unique special flavor that comes from not only the sort of sweet and firm lobster meat that comes from it, but also the sauce that comes from the salt and fennel. At that point, since Yancheng lobster is so culturally significant, it's also a luxury item. It has this unique flavor and quality that makes it a relatively inelastic demand product. So, with that being said, we can sort of now look at how the product looks on a supply and demand curve. So here's what the demand curve would generally look like. Since it is a relatively inelastic demand curve, and the reason for that is because the demand for the product will stay relatively the same, even if there is a large jump in the price, right? And the reason for that is because that there's limited substitutes for this product. It is a large freshwater lobster, which is very rare to come by, but also has a unique taste, right? The saltwater and freshwater convergence gives it a sweeter and firmer texture, but also the sauce that is directly produced within Yancheng also gives it a unique flavor that a lot of people sort of look for. And at that point, even if the price for the product goes up, if someone wants to eat Yancheng lobster, they cannot find a substitute for it, which is why the demand stays relatively the same. Of course, this graph doesn't actually depict the real Yancheng lobster prices and demand, but merely a representation of the economic trend that it sort of follows. So obviously, the prices are going from 8 to 12 is not real, but you get the general idea, right? If the prices of the product go up, the demand only goes down a very small amount, even at all, right? So now let's look at the supply curve. So as you can see, the supply curve is also relatively inelastic. And that's once again because the fact that the lobsters are relatively finite and rare, right? Even if people are willing to sort of pay exorbitant prices for these lobsters, the supply can only go up so much, right? Um, the process takes a long time, and the lobsters still need to be fished by these fishermen in the region. And onto the discussion of sort of whether it's a fixed vertical supply curve, I would argue that it's not, but it is very close. And the reason being is that a fixed vertical supply curve needs a limited like supply, right? But the Yancheng lobster, even though it is rare, there is nothing stopping fishermen from going out and sort of fishing more for these products and doing the process more, right? So let's say the price of the Yancheng lobster skyrocketed, in this situation, these fishermen in the area would likely go out and start finding these lobsters more, right? They would go out of their way to do the process more, fish for these lobsters more, right? At that point, I would argue that the quantity, well, it can't go up very much. It can go up to a certain extent to make it that it's not a fixed vertical supply curve, right? And once again, right, these supply and demand curves are very abstract concepts. Obviously, it depends on the conditions, right? Let's say the fishermen are having a hard time getting more Yancheng lobsters, then it might be a fixed vertical supply curve, that day or that year. But there are chances because this is an animal, right? They can breed. There's not a limited supply. It is possible that these fishermen can find more, which makes it a relatively inelastic supply curve and not a fixed vertical supply curve. Once again, the chart is just a representation. Finally, let's look into the USA substitute products. Once again, there's things such as Maine lobsters and California spiny lobsters, but the Yancheng lobster is not a saltwater species like these, so that's why it's different. So those aren't really substitutes. The closest substitute is probably the crayfish, which is in the same species. So Yancheng lobster is technically a part of the Procambarus clarkii species, which is just standard crayfish throughout a lot of the United States. And while it is somewhat of a viable substitute, the Yancheng lobster is, first of all, a lot larger than these types of crayfish that you find in the United States, but also has different nutritional content because of the salt and freshwater combination in which they live. Um, and additionally, they go through this unique production process that makes them differ a lot from regular crayfish within the United States, and that's what makes it a PGI product, right? So the actual lobster itself needs to be produced in the area. as does the salt and the whole and even though the production process probably could be carried out in the United States, um, it isn't. And also, once again, the salt and the lobster itself need to be produced within those areas. So there's no true substitutes within the United States. All right. At that point, these are some of the sources that I use. And this map sort of depicts where the yellow sea is and sort of where a lot of the lobsters come from. Here are my sources that I use. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I really enjoyed making this product. Thank you.